Muhammad made prophecies about things such as Islam defeating the Romans, the Caliphate ruling the Holy Land. He even made prophecies about talking trees. The failures just keep on adding up. We have so far shown a theme of failure. Muhammad's prophecies obviously did not come to pass. Even the claim that whatever he was saying is a future prophecy is really a laughable, basically claim at best. It doesn't represent anything supernatural, anything unusual, anything even that can be proven historically speaking. And we are these days living in an advanced world where there has been tons of archaeological discoveries, satellite imagery, many things that could be done to test even for past events, pollutions, all sort of things that people and science can prove whether they took place or did not take place. And yet, sadly, we have some of our Islamic apologists running around with these kind of prophecies, making a claim that Muhammad indeed was a prophet and Muhammad indeed predicted future things, which, by the way, at face value, I can be a prophet myself because I can come up even with better prophecies than that if that's the criteria for what makes someone a prophet. AP, welcome back, of course. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. And thank you for sharing these data, and not only the hadith, but also I like the one that the other day you shared about even studies done about the frequency of earthquakes, for instance, that are taking place these days. Yeah. I'm sorry, we lost your audio.
Sorry, I was muted.
Yeah, no problem. So what else are we going to cover this time?
Well, there is definitely more. There is no end to these. Unfortunately, we only have a limited time in our lives to talk about all the failures of Muhammad. But I want to get into the next one, which will just point out once more that Muhammad was prophesying and a soon coming end without actually knowing what would happen in the future. Now, we have one source in which Muhammad describes series of events where Muhammad says about the end, you will fight the Arabian Peninsula. I mean, you will take everyone over, which happened probably during Muhammad's lifetime, and then slightly shortly afterwards. It was already taken over very much, and victory will be granted. Then you will fight the Romans, and victory will be granted. And then you will fight the Dajjal, and victory will be granted. Now, so one of those things happened around Muhammad's time, which is that the Arabian Peninsula was taken over. One of the other things the second thing that you will fight the Romans. Muhammad's men in his time allegedly fought some Eastern Roman Byzantine forces. And then after Muhammad's death, the Muslims expanded and began actually fighting and conquering those territories. If you want to refer to that as Romans, then yes, that happened back then. But then the Dajjal did not come after that. The Dajjal is the Islamic equivalent of the Antichrist, of the false Messiah, who will come and who has one eye and who will terrorize the world before the end comes. It did not happen though, right? So Muslims fought Romans back then, but the Dajjal did not come. If you want to say that this refers to a future event, in the future Muslims will fight the Romans again, and then the Dajjal will come. So this is not a veiled prophecy. Then where exactly are the Romans who do not exist anymore? Now, I'm sure you are aware of some of the responses that we get from Muslims, such as that Romans here might not refer to Romans in that time exclusively, but to Western people in general, or to Christians, for example. What do you think about that, Al?
Yeah. I mean, of course. And again, to be honest with you, what makes this a prophecy? What if it was written after the fact? What if it was invented after the fact? After all, we know that Bukhari himself discounted a number of hadith because of this type of basically fabrication. So this is done, possibly after the fact. But even if it was accurate, okay, well, who is the Dajjal, and why do we think just the Muslims are going to be fighting it? I mean, the Bible talks about the Antichrist. The Bible says nations will be fighting, not just one nation in particular. So I'm not really seeing anything here of significance if that's the case. And you're right. Are you saying all of the Romans basically have been decimated and done with? My goodness. Then who are the Europeans that we have today? Where did they come from? You see, these kind of things, AP, open even a deeper dilemma for our Muslim friends to try now to even justify every word that is said there. You can't just brush it off and say, oh, well, Muhammad is a prophet, you see? Arabia was taken over. Big deal. So what? I could have predicted that myself too, the way Islam is spreading with the sword. Of course it will take over. No doubt about that.
I mean, if I was a warlord, I would make the prophecy. I would say, you guys, you will conquer. If I was a warlord in Arabia, I would say, you will conquer Arabia, and then you will fight the Romans. Inevitably, it will happen because I want you to fight them. And then,
and that is true. That is true, AP. I mean, what if you're saying when you do this, you go and fight those? So what if you fight a certain group? Okay, tomorrow I'm going to say you're going to fight, let's say the Russians. Okay, is that a prophecy? I'm just commanding you to go and fight the Russians. So what? I didn't predict who's going to win, who's going to be wiped out, what's going to happen in the future, and so on and so forth.
It is actually very much an encouragement to just do what I say, to go and fight. So you are supposed to do this because this is part of our destiny. This must happen, and then the end will come. So this just motivates these people more to go and do that.
That's
But
true.
we see another example of this in Abu Dawood, for example, where Muhammad allegedly placed his hand on my head and said, Ibn Hawala, when you see the caliphate has settled in the Holy Land. This might very well be written long after Muhammad, and invented on his behalf. But after the caliphate has settled in the Holy Land, on that day, the last hour will be nearer to mankind than this hand of mine is to your head. So the wording here, I would say this is a very common way in the time and the region to describe something that is near. So Muhammad places his hand on the guy's head and placed it directly on his head and says, when the caliphate settles in the Holy Land, referring to Jerusalem, which they probably referred to after he died, then the last hour, the hour will be nearer to you than this hand, which is currently on your head, is to your head. So you conquer Jerusalem, and then the hour comes,
right?
About to happen, almost there. Does that make sense? Now you could say Muslims did conquer Jerusalem, and the caliphate did settle in the Holy Land. But maybe Muhammad was not referring to that event, which happened in the 7th century. Maybe what he meant was, okay, it will happen once, but then nothing will happen. And then, much later it will happen again. And this is also the anticipation that many Muslims have, that they will fight again and take over Jerusalem once more. And then this will happen. But that's easy to say, right? I mean, even if they conquered it a second time and then nothing happened, it was lost. Then they would say, well, not this time, the next time, the third time, then it might happen.
Yeah, exactly. Now, let me ask this question. Which Holy Land are we talking about? How do we know that it is the Holy Land of today? What if it's a different area? I mean, so far we've been coming up with discoveries that point to Petra or point to Jerusalem. And was he talking about his Holy Land where he was standing? Was he there when he said this? Was he pointing to a specific location? I mean, words have meanings, and I don't see any meaning yet in here about which Holy Land, and if indeed, as AP mentioned, was even said by him when he was alive. What if it was said later? And why can't we find these things in the other authentic collections, for instance? And maybe we do find them, but at the same time, it seems like this one is more pronounced than the others. So there are so many questions than answers here, AP.
And it also brings not only doubt and proof that his prophecies were wrong and problematic, but there's also a lot of danger and a lot of hate that comes with it. We just talked about the Holy Land, which people might have attributed to Jerusalem after the fact or to something else. Muslims today say this is about the Holy Land, and it is about Jerusalem, and it will probably be conquered again. And that also comes with prophecies which are also attributed to Muhammad, which are abundant and which Muslims around the world follow, such as this one, where Abu Huraira says that the Prophet Muhammad said, "The last hour would not come unless the Muslims will fight against the Jews, and the Muslims would kill them until the Jews would hide themselves behind a stone or a tree, and a stone or a tree would say, 'Muslim, servant of Allah, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him.'" And then, but the Kargat tree would not say, because that is the tree of the Jews.
Yeah, I
So
remember
there is a
learning these
strange tree
things.
that is on the side of the Jews. You can't
Yeah,
trust
yeah,
that tree. And
yeah. I know
and
exactly. I grew up believing in this. I grew up memorizing this. I grew up anticipating this. But you are right. Read between the lines. There is hatred towards the Jews, and even towards the poor tree. If you find it, probably you need to destroy it because it's going to hide the Jews in there.
there are even there are many conspiracy theories going around today of Muslims actually believing that in Israel, the Israeli administration is aware of these trees, and they are planting these trees in Israel left and right because they know exactly that this tree will protect them, which is of course such an idiotic thing to believe in. And
Yeah,
no Israeli actually knows what this is about.
absolutely. Well, AP, thank you so much. Do we have more of these prophecies that we can discuss next time?
We definitely do have more.
Absolutely. That's great. That's great. That's what we want. So thank you again for sharing this with us. And we are going to wrap up this part. And next part, we'll continue with these discussions about Muhammad's failed prophecy. I hope everyone is taking notes of everything we've shared so far. Again, we're giving you the sources. You are welcome to go and inspect these sources on your own. And I guarantee you, if you do really a good research, you are going to come across a lot of examples like this. So what we're sharing with you is just a handful of examples that are so damaging to this claim that a man by the name Muhammad actually was a prophet who knew things about the future, or at least been inspired to say things about the future. And the funny part is this, folks. This is my closing argument here. How come we don't find these things in the Quran, the words of Allah? Why do we find it in the word of man who knows more than Allah himself? I'll leave you with that. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, AP. Till next time, have a blessed day. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment. And ring the bell so you will be notified when we release new content. Our mission is to reach Muslims with the gospel of Jesus Christ and help Christians engage with their Muslim neighbors. If you want to join us in this life-changing work, please support us on patreon.com/Sira International, or just click on the link below.